Welcome all. I'm really excited to share with you the things I have learned about design practice, working as a creator to contribute to a greater cause, and the opportunity to advocate for positive changes within our community. In relation to my own design practice, I aspire to create meaningful designs that influence or assist in sparking positive social, political change. My chosen designer is someone who uses her passion and creative drive to create space for those that don't have a voice to be heard. She has also had a major role to play in regards to women in design and the feminist movement. Sheila de Bretteville is a graphic designer, artist, and educator whose advocacy and beliefs of feminist principles, user participation, and diversity is greatly reflected throughout her practice. Bretteville studied art history at Barnard College, which then led to her studying graphic design at Yale School of Art, in which she saw an opportunity to connect with people and the community through her work. In 1969, Bretteville returned from Italy, where she had been working in a design studio in Olivetti. Upon her return, she began working in an office shared by Robert Mangurian and Craig Hodgetts. Craig Hodgetts later became the Associate Dean of the School of Design at the California Institute of the Arts, or CalArts. Shortly after, Sheila Bretteville was invited to work on the branding material for CalArts in order to attract new students. Bretteville later began teaching at the newly established School of Design. Having no previous teaching experience, Bretteville drew from her past assessments and studies and from an old high school text, which included just one chapter on design. Bretteville is more interested in radical feminism, inspired by feminists such as Shulamith Firestone and Eva Figs. When Bretteville was at the California Institute of the Arts in 1971, she began teaching their readings in her classes. Only a year after she was hired, Bretteville managed to convince the dean to let her hold women's-only classes on her 2 teaching days a week. Bretteville expressed that we were meeting around ideas and experiences that I think women wouldn't have spoken about if they were in a mixed room. In 1981, Sheila Bretteville initiated the Communication Design program at the Otis Art Institution of the Parsons School of Design. Bretteville's passion for community and user interaction has seen many of her work displayed in cities around America. When Bretteville creates pieces for public viewing, she thoroughly researches the site of the installation and genuinely listens to the voices of those that live there and inhabit that space throughout their day. In 1973, 2 years on from founding women's-only classes at the California Institute of the Arts, Bretteville co-founded the Women's Building and the Women's Graphic Center, both based in Los Angeles. The Women's Building, created by women for women, offered female artists and designers a space to create, meet other women, and to feel empowered. It was a safe environment and something separate and uniquely its own compared to most mainstream patriarchal-based institutions. In 1973, the American Institute of Graphic Design invited 100 designers to create a 30 by 30 square poster that said something about a single colour. Sheila Bretteville chose to work with the colour pink as a symbol of gender identification. Bretteville divided the poster into 36 individual cards and handed most of them out to women of various ages, asking them to create pieces based on their own individual interpretations of the colour pink. The significance and symbolism it holds in society in relation to gender stereotypes and expectations. When the poster was brought together for the final exhibition entry, Bretteville left some blank pink cards to leave room for viewers to create their own interpretations and disparate connotations associated with pink and its role in gender identification. In 1992 interview about the project with Michelle Moravec, Bretteville described pink as part of what women are assigned. If you have a female child, pink is the colour that's assigned that. It's part of the renaming of things. Everyone who talked about women was talking about our power or empowerment. This was a different kind of power. This was the power of intuition, of emotion, of connection that I think is women's real feminine power. For graphic design, the 70s was a time of bright colours, ballooning words, and sharp geometry. A lot of designs created in the 70s were influenced by activism and the uprising of many social and political movements. Resistance and protest posters became more common and have become imperative building blocks in design history. Sheila's works are often centered around open-ended projects and people interaction. The notion of user interaction is fairly common nowadays within graphic design practices, but at the time it was a fairly new concept. Bretteville says this interest comes from when she was living and working in Italy. It was a time of questioning everything, a time of change. Bretteville explains that it's important for people to have that understanding that other people hear and see and feel you, and all my work is community-based and tries to accommodate all points of view. In 1974, Sheila Bretteville created the Women in Design The Next Decade poster. The blueprint base of the design is something often used by architects and engineers when establishing basic plans for a project. Bretteville used this due to the material's inexpensiveness and to symbolise that at that conference their visions for the future might guide them into the next decade. The moon phases is referenced from a painting by Angelica Kaufman as the artist in the character of design inspired by poetry. The gridded landscape and the posters is an impression of the utopian-style image created by Super Studio, introduced to Bretteville during her time living in Milan. The eyebolt turned woman symbol is an iconic piece created by Bretteville for the Women in Design poster. When the actual conference commenced, Bretteville had necklaces made with the hardware symbol on for all the women to wear. This concept was created for a particular context, but it swiftly got taken up by the outer community. Women were wearing these bolts at feminist rallies, and the symbol was sported on posters and protest pieces across America. At the Start / At Long Last is an installation work created by Sheila Bretteville. The work is displayed at Inwood 207th in New York. It's the very last stop on the 8th Avenue line, the starting or ending point of a long day at work for many people. The typographic mural displays the words "At Long Last" and on the opposite wall, "At the Start," in silver glittering letters. The ellipses which follow these phrases invite travellers to finish the sentence with their own thoughts. One woman that travels through that station every day commented that it's like her environment knows how tired she is. It's so important to have your environment respond to your feelings and make them valid. This is one of many examples of how Bretteville's works, and in particular installation pieces, seemingly reflect the values held within the communities in which they are exposed to. Installation artworks were on the rise during the 1970s, with founding members such as Duchamp with his use of ready-mades and Judy Chicago's iconic feminist work, The Dinner Party. However, these works were still being displayed in art galleries. Bretteville's community-based works are inclusive and allow citizens of all ages, abilities, socioeconomic background, etc. to experience and connect with the installations. In the 1970s, Miriam Shapiro and Judy Chicago taught a women's art program at the Fresno State College. Shapiro and Chicago also had a feminist newspaper running on the side, in which they invited Bretteville to create a special issue which highlighted the things that they were teaching. Bretteville went up to Fresno State College to interview the staff and students who were involved in the program. She chose a conscience-raising model in which she gave every woman the same amount of time to speak. She gave both the teachers and the students a 2-page spread. The controversial centre spread became an image of cheer and empowerment. Sheila Levrant de Bretteville's unconditional advocacy for social change, in particular her works and efforts associated with the feminist movement, inspire my own future design practice and offers me new perspective on how design can be used to create important changes within our society.